everybody, and welcome to the review. I'm your host, Movie Man, saving you from terrible movies one film at a time. And it's November 2019 at last, the month and year that Blade Runner takes place. So join me, if you will, as we have a look at this gem of a movie that nobody was able to replicate. Also, just putting us out here, it's 2019. Why are there no replicants? Guess we'll never know. Guess we'll never know. All joking aside, let's get on with it.
Possibly the most talked about sci-fi movie ever made, Blade Runner achieved this honour by being a failure on its original release, thus becoming a true cult classic. A feast for the eyes, dark and uncompromising, with a haunting musical score by Vangelis that adds a hypnotic quality to those breathtaking megacity landscapes of future Los Angeles.
Or from the intro, Fife, Scotland as well.
It's one of those movies that you need a decent sound system and a dark room to truly appreciate its qualities. Ridley Scott's adaptation of Philip K. Dick's post-apocalyptic noir story To Android's Dream of Electric Sheep is a visionary work of art. It's a dystopian masterpiece, and I'd personally call it as much of a milestone of science fiction as Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey or George Lucas's Star Wars. Blade Runner is a brilliantly crafted science fiction film that not only touches upon, but bravely plunges into deep philosophical questions. In spite of a rich glaze of science fiction and futurism coating this adventure, there are distinct film noir elements present, primarily in the bluish haze that the film is seen through, and its gritty urban atmosphere. Whoever thought of this combination is a genius. Since it's all about technology, it fits then that Blade Runner features a ridiculous amount of product placement, especially from Coca-Cola and Atari, which I believe is making a comeback with its new console, the Atari VCS.
Weird that they're returning in 2019. It's almost like this film predicted it. Anyway,
In any other film, this would have felt out of place, but here it is simply perfect, especially nowadays with this type of advertising, and a rich mixture of cultures and urban environments is much more prevalent than when the movie first came out. Especially Japanese culture, which for the most part has permeated American and European pop culture. Also, the score by Vangelis is strangely gripping when combined with the striking cinematography of the film. Nailed it. The soundtrack, arranged by Vangelis, who won an Oscar for his Chariots of Fire score, consisted mainly of jazz and blues. This functioned to represent a dark, moody world of uncertainty and pessimism. Plus, the costume department seems to have had a little style from the 40s, especially with the respect to cars, costumes, and music. I mean, Rachel's entire outfit, including her hair, screams the 40s. The special effects were exceptional. Much of this set was pulled off using models, and in my opinion, sets made by hand require leagues more skill and are much more impressive and realistic than those which are created by computers. These guys really knew what they were doing, and I was especially fond of the towering Tyrell Corporation building, which hinted at the godlike presence of Eldon Tyrell, the creator of the replicants. And he was also played by John Turkel.
more on Tyrell later.
The script, written by Hampton, Fancher, David Peoples, and of course Philip K. Dick, worked for me, as well as the actors who gave voice to it. Harrison Ford was, well, Harrison Ford, and I thought he did a brilliant job downplaying the role. Rutger Hauer's performance was intense. His lines at the end were intriguingly philosophical, and Daryl Hannah's chilling robotic expressions were quite impressive. This is the only film I know of that has multiple versions of it, 7 to be exact, namely the original work print, never played in theatres, a San Diego sneak preview version from 1982, The theatrical cut played in cinemas in the US in 1982, the international cut slightly more violent than the US version, a US broadcast version from 1986, the director's cut released in 1992, and the final cut, a brilliant name for a sword. The final cut was released in 2007. Good God, why are there so many? Well, that's where I come in. I'm going to explain the differences between them. So let's get into it, shall we? The differences mostly stem from a disagreement between Ridley Scott and Warner Brothers. Scott's original work print didn't go over well with test audiences, so Warner Brothers came back and made a few alterations, much to Ridley Scott's disagreement. He would later make his own changes down the line, resulting in the director's cut and the final cut. So, what were the differences? If you've never seen Blade Runner, I suggest stopping the video here and to go and watch it. Trust me, the video will still be here when you get back. Oh, preferably make the version you watch the final cut, as it's closer to Ridley Scott's vision.
Okay, so you're back? Great, let's continue.
So there are three main differences between the different versions of the film: the voiceover, the happy ending, and the unicorn daydream. The voiceover that is done by the protagonist Rick Deckard is not in the work print version, the director's cut, or even the final cut, but is in the theatrical version and the international version. Due to the work print version of the film being rated poorly by test audiences, this was added to the theatrical version by Warner Brothers, simply to simplify the movie. But fans viewed this negatively, and there are two reasons as to why this is. Number one, the dialogue is badly written. And number two, the narration removes the ambiguity of the movie, essentially dumbing down the movie. The second difference is the happy ending. In this sequence, Deckard and Rachel are seen driving off into the wilderness, seemingly far away from the dystopian Los Angeles of 2019. Again, like the voiceover, this was only in the theatrical and the international versions. The other versions end with Rachel and Deckard leaving his apartment. There are strengths and weaknesses to this decision. Ultimately, I believe it serves the movie better not to have the happy ending, mainly due to it still having Deckard's voiceover. Also, this seems to connect with the Blade Runner sequel, 2049. The Unicorn Dream is probably the most complex and interesting changes. Deckard has this brief dream sequence halfway through the film. He experiences a sleepy version of a unicorn going through a misty forest. At the end of this version of the film, he sees Gaff's origami unicorn. It has many insinuations. Did Gaff know about Deckard's dream? Or was it a coincidence? Without the daydream, all we know is that Gaff may be nearby. But with the daydream included, it leaves the interpretation up to the viewer and poses the question, if Deckard is a replicant, then how does that change the film? The Unicorn Daydream is only included in the director's cut and the final cut. So you're asking, what about the other two, movie man? You know, the San Diego and the broadcast versions? Well, the differences are minimal.
But here's what I found.
The US broadcast version from 1986 was the US theatrical version edited by television company CBS to tone down the violence, profanity, and nudity to meet broadcasting restrictions. In this version, the initial text crawl at the start of the movie explaining what replicants are, early in the 21st century, is read by an anonymous announcer who is not Harrison Ford. The actual text of the opening crawl is different from the 1982 US theatrical release as well. As for the San Diego version, it is nearly identical to the 1982 US theatrical version, except that it included 3 additional scenes not shown before or since. They weren't even included in the final cut version either. The movie itself is a detective noir quest for the meaning of life in a science fiction environment. But the story is a commentary on what it means to be human and the questions each one of us have about life. Like, how long have I got to live? Why do I have to die? What happens when I die? Doesn't my maker care? Is this all merely an illusion? At the end of the film, we are left to wonder if these replicants are human, and if Deckard himself is in fact a replicant. Scott raises more questions here than he answers, and as a result, critics are still debating the mysteries of this film today. In a sense, the ambiguity of Blade Runner is the culprit of its success. Due to all of this, there have been many different theories on the movie. It oozes the type of allegory that will keep conspiracy theorists up all night for years to come. But here's food for thought. Batty is Jesus. After all, he sticks a nail through his hand and dies, releasing a dove as he does so. And Tyrell, referred to by Batty as his maker, is God. See, I told you there was more to Tyrell. This theory makes the replicants us. Well, humans are programmed, like replicants, to die from birth. A paradox encapsulated in the last line of the film. It's too bad she won't live, but then again, who does? The film has also influenced many other movies from the likes of Terminator, The Matrix, Total Recall, Ghost in the Shell, The Fifth Element, and even the Mario Bros. Movie of all things.
It was even parodied in Red Dwarf. Awesome.
It is essential viewing, especially since after this month, it will now forever be in the past, but will always be remembered as a classic sci-fi neo-noir masterpiece.
Finally, the information is out there for the whole world to see.
Yeah, I know. I just broke down the conspiracy theory of Batty and Tyrell.
No, not that.
Oh. Well, what are you drivelling on about?
All politicians and celebrities are replicants. And they've been under our noses the entire time.
Like the Illuminati?
No. Well, maybe, but that's not the point.
Okay. Do you have an example, big guy?
Could I have the images requested? Thanks. Now, you know how Mr. Ramsey has that outrageous personality, right?
Right.
It's because it's fabricated.
You don't mean...
Oh, I do.
It's because he's a replicant! Oh, good God. You might be onto something there. The whole world could be in danger.
So should we do something about it?
Well... Yo, could you pass me a bit of pizza, man?
Yeah. But you gotta pass me a beer first.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Hey,
Merci
bro.
beaucoup, mademoiselle.
Wait. Huh?
What are you two doing here?
Sup, quotation lad?
Yeah, we're just sitting here chilling, you know. Due to the existential dread towards the knowledge of the fact that most celebrities and politicians are in fact replicants. Did you know that?
Everybody knows that. How did it take you two so long to figure that out? So this is how you're handling it?
Yeah, so we just decided to bunker down, you know.
Is that pizza? Love pizza.